short video, we're going to go through some postures on the ground. So we're going to work with Dandasana, which is gate pose. Then we're going to come into Locust for our back strength. And then we're going to work with Plough and Gomakasana. So fairly varied bunch of postures, but we're going to work our body in all different directions. So for Dandasana, gate pose, it's a side stretch on your knees. So if you would like to have some padding under your knees, then please go ahead and roll your mat up, perhaps take a blanket underneath your knees. You may also, if you have a yoga block, you may need one handy. If you don't have a block, get a book, okay? There's no need to be precise. So coming into an upright kneeling position, and initially we're going to take the right foot out to the side so that the legs are in this box shape. You can step the heel in or forward of the knee a little bit. Take the outside, the back of the right hand onto the right knee. Left hand out to the side. Breathing in, stretch up, and automatically feeling this lovely stretch up the side of the body. So if you wanted to stay here and keep stretching into those fingertips, then please do. If you feel you could go a little bit deeper, then breathe in, stretch up, and as you breathe out, begin to take the fingers of the top hand over to the right. So we're not aiming to take them down and over, we're aiming to keep that upward stretch as we brush the top fingers to the ceiling. And the consequence of that is that this opposite hand, the right hand, begins to move down the right leg. But we're really focusing on this upward movement of the hand. Continue to breathe while you're here. And think about the chest staying open. So you want the top shoulder to stay over the bottom shoulder. As soon as you feel that sinking feeling, you lose this beautiful side stretch. So keep the chest open. When you're ready to come out, turn the top palm face up, breathing in, stretch up, and breathing out, take the hand down to the side. Let's go for the other leg. So upright kneeling, and then take the left foot out to the side, create the box shape. Back of the left hand on the inside of the knee, right hand palm face out, breathing in, stretch up. And a couple of breaths here just to establish that lovely long line from the kneecap to the fingertips. Breathing in, stretch up. If you have a little bit of side stretch left, then moving the hand over. Keeping that top shoulder in line, stretching up on each out breath, perhaps with each, in breath, and with each out breath taking a deeper fold. When you're ready to come up, turn the palm face up. Breathing in, stretch up to the sky. Breathing out, take that hand back down, back into your upright kneeling. So if you want to repeat that variation, then please carry on. If you want to go a little further, then we're going to use the block to place the ball of the foot on. If your toes naturally come down to the ground, then please feel free to ignore the block tip. But for me, and in order to keep my knee pointing up to the ceiling, it's quite nice just to have my toes resting on the block. If I don't do that, what tends to happen is my knee will fold into the centre, which puts my knee in a compromised position, which I don't want. Otherwise, same principle. So back of the right hand onto the inner thigh. Palm of the left hand out to the side, breathing in, stretch up. Feel that lovely stretch on the side of the body. And as you breathe out, travelling over into your side stretch, migrating the right hand down the side of the leg. Top shoulder stays above the bottom shoulder, open in the chest here. Gaze can be up towards the ceiling, can be straight forward. If you prefer, it can be down. If this becomes too strong, it's fine to take a little bit of weight through the leg, but avoid pushing on the knee. Okay, so you can rest on the leg or have the hand resting just here. Turn the palm face up, breathing in, stretch up, and breathing out, coming down. And then we'll travel over to the other side. So if you're using the block, take the block to the other side of the mat. Take the left foot out to the side, rest your toes on the block if you're using it. Turn the palm of the right hand out, back of the left hand onto the inner thigh. Breathing in, stretch up, and breathing out, side stretch over. Once again, thinking about that upward movement with the fingertips, thinking about this lovely stretch from the knee to the hip, all the way up, shooting energy through your fingertips. Open the chest, top shoulder over the bottom shoulder, breathing in and stretching through the fingertips. Your gaze is up or down or straight forwards. When you're ready to come out, turn the palm face up, breathing in, stretch up, and breathing out, coming down. Good. Place the block to one side, and then we're going to have a lay down on the fronts of the body and resting your head down on your hands or on fists, whichever you feel most comfortable. And we're going to work with the legs. So I'm only lifting up so that I can talk to you, so it's fine while I'm talking to rest your head down. So we want to draw the feet together, the heels together, and we're going to activate the legs. So notice that my feet stay on the mat as I activate the knees and lift the knees off of the mat. And then from here we're going to encourage one leg to lift up and hold. Notice the muscles that need to activate to do this. And then as we breathe out, we're going to draw the foot back down and draw it back into the centre. So the tendency will be for it to migrate outwards. So try to keep it central if you can. Activate both knees, lift the opposite foot up. This is a really good exercise for your glutes and for your lower back muscles. Once again, I'm lifted onto my elbow so that you can hear me talk, but please know that it's fine to come down and rest your head down on the mat. And then bringing that foot back down. So if that felt okay, and you want to go a stage further, then heels together, lift and activate the knees, and then we're going to lift both feet from the floor. And remembering to breathe. And then after a couple of breaths, perhaps lift them a little higher. Keep pushing and lengthening the legs away from the body. Lifting and breathing. And then as you breathe out, allowing the legs to come back to the mat. Have a shake out. And we're going to introduce a little bit of work with the upper body now. So we're going to place the forehead on the floor, take the arms down to the sides, and then lift. I'm lifting the head so I can talk to you. Lift the hands up behind you, squeeze the elbows together behind your back. Lift your chest, lift your head. It's almost as though somebody were pulling you back for your fingertips, and then lift your feet. Almost as though you wanted to grab your heels, but of course you're pushing your feet away, and your fingertips are trying desperately to follow them. Keep the elbows squeezing together, keep the chest lifting, keep those heels high. And then resting down. Wonderful work. So, please feel free to repeat Locust pose. It's a really good all back strengthener. It's great for all of the muscles that we need to activate to keep our posture nicely aligned. So the next bit of work we're going to do is with Plough pose, which involves some deep flexion in the neck. So before we do Plough, we're going to just work with some neck stretches. So keep the chest gently lifted, the shoulders neutral. So avoid the temptation to bring the shoulders to the party. So everything down here is relaxed with a gentle lift in the chest. And then we're simply going to take the chin down towards the chest, stretching in the back of the neck. I'll turn so you can see. So my chest is staying neutral. My chin simply drops down. And there's a stretch up the back of the neck here. And then breathing in, lift the chin. Take your fingertips and just place them on the back of the head so that as you lift the chin, Your fingertips can support the weight of your head going back. So we're not taking the head back without control, we're slowly taking the head back, lifting the chin and supporting the weight of the head into the hands. So we have a nice stretch in the front of the throat. Lift up with fingertips to bring the head back into a neutral position. And once again, keeping the shoulders neutral, we're going to look over the right shoulder. So the chin is staying level with the floor, and we simply turn the head to align the chin and the shoulder. Facing forwards, and as you breathe out, go to the other side. Keeping those shoulders neutral again. And facing forwards. And this time we're going to take the right ear to the right shoulder. Both shoulders staying neutral. Nice stretch down the side of the neck this time. Breathing in, lift the head, and breathing out, go to the other side. Nice stretch down the other side of the neck. Really tempting to lift the shoulders to touch the ear, but please don't feel the need. Just enough so that you can feel the stretch, and it's going to be different for all of us. Good. So, for Halasana, plough pose, we're going to work with a little bit of core control before we go anywhere. So lie on your backs, have the knees bent, and feel as though you can push the lower back into the mat. So usually when we lie flat, we have a natural arch in our back here. First stage in this exercise is to get rid of that arch by pushing the back into the floor. And that involves a little bit of a movement in the pelvis and engagement in the abdominal muscles. Okay, so that's the first stage. Next stage is to lift the feet and come into a tuck position. Okay, so there's no hands used here. Simply engaging the muscles and lifting the knees into the chest. So notice that my tailbone lifts as I'm encouraging my knees into my chest as much as I can. You can lift the head, come into a nice tight ball. Lower the head but keep the knees lifted. And then slowly taking the tailbone back to the floor and allowing the feet to come down. So I'm in a great position here with the wall above my head. If you don't have a wall, then feel free to move so that you have your sofa or something behind you, because we're going to lift our feet onto the wall or to the chair behind you. Have the hands down by your sides with the palms facing down. And exactly the same movement. We're going to tuck. This time we can push into the hands to help the tailbone to lift. And begin to straighten the legs and push the feet into the wall or the floor, or the chair behind you. Doesn't really matter how far you come up to start with, it's just getting the feel for that movement. Notice that I don't roll up with lots of speed. I'm going nice and slowly, controlling everything with my core muscles as I come up, pushing a little bit into my hands to help the lift, and then placing my feet on the wall. And just as slowly coming back down. If you want to go a little higher, then I'd encourage you to move away from the wall a little bit further. Tuck up, push into the hands, come a little bit higher, feet come onto the wall. If your hips come high enough, you can place the hands onto the back of the hips, squeeze the elbows in towards each other. Keep rolling onto the tops of the shoulders. Perhaps move the feet down the wall as you come into Plough or Halasana. So wherever you are is absolutely fine. If you want to come closer to the wall and keep your feet up and the hips back down a little bit, that's absolutely fine. Just go as far as you feel comfortable. If you do come all the way down to the floor, be active in the legs, tuck the toes under, straighten the legs, lift the tailbone to the sky. And when you're ready to come down, all of that lovely control, rolling one vertebra of the spine down to the mat at a time and placing the feet down onto the floor. So I'd really encourage you to perhaps pause the video, have another go. If you're comfortable in plough pose, then please feel free to spend 10 breaths there, pausing. It's a really lovely calming posture. Like I say, if you just want to keep practicing with the abdominal control, have the feet high up on the wall behind you, that's also great. So the other posture that we're working with for the next few weeks, we're only on week 1 at the moment, is Gomukhasana or cow face pose. And this week I'm just going to focus in on the hips a little bit. So Gomukhasana involves both shoulder work and hip work, but initially we're going to be working on the legs. So we want to be able to have some flexibility in the hips. So lying again on your backs, we're going to cross one ankle over the knee and encourage that knee out to the side, so we're opening in the hip. Any discomfort in the knee joint, then you back off, because that suggests the hips have finished opening, and what's happening is you're twisting in the knee, and we don't want to twist in the knee. Flex the foot at the ankle, encourage that knee away, noticing any opening in the opposite hip. If you don't feel anything, or you want to go further, lift the left foot from the floor. You can take the hands around the shin and encourage the left knee in as the right knee moves away. So notice that I've kept my hips down on the floor. So it might be tempting to lift up really high and come into a bit of a ball, but you might find that keeping the tailbone down and simply focusing on squeezing the knee in actually gets a little bit of a deeper intensity. So give that a go. Good. So these are all variations. If you want to stay here with the foot down, please just carry on opening there. Spend a few breaths there before going to the other side. So I'm going into my left hip now, encouraging that left knee away a little bit. There's a rotation in the hip that happens here. So although I'm suggesting that the knee moves away, it's not just a matter of pushing that knee, we're actually encouraging this rotation deep within the hip joint. So once again, if you're happy and you're getting enough stretch here, then please feel free to stay here. If you want to go further, lift the right foot up and hold on to the outside of the shin, or perhaps the back of the thigh. And once again, squeezing the knee in to draw the ankle towards you. So the left knee is moving away, the right knee is moving towards us. Flexing the left foot at the ankle to keep the knee safe. It's really good stretches to pause. So once again, feel free to pause the video, take a good 10 or so breaths in each of those stretches. They're really beneficial. And then once you feel that you've warmed up, I'll face you so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to come into Dandasana, staff pose. Take the right foot and cross the foot over the left leg. Interlace the fingers around the knee to help you sit tall. So the first thing to notice with Gomukhasana is that in this position, with the knee lifted, as soon as we allow that knee to drop, you begin to feel the same rotation in the hip. So we're going to carry on that movement. So the knee drops, we're going to take the foot, lift the heel towards the opposite hip and tuck the foot under. So the sole of the foot starts to point up to the ceiling and the top of the foot comes down to the floor. So it might not be flat, probably isn't flat, mine isn't, but but we're working towards that. Okay, so this might feel more than intense for you, and that's absolutely fine. You can pause here. If you are feeling quite open in the hips tonight and you want to take the other foot, then you can rock onto the hip of the straight leg, bend that leg in so that both heels, the heel of each foot sits on the outside of the opposite hip. Just take a moment to position yourselves in between your heels, and you want to come to a stage where both sitting bones are down on the mat. If you find that this hip is lifted and just doesn't want to go down yet, then that's absolutely fine. I'd encourage you to think about it coming down, and if it's really not coming down and actually you're feeling it in the knee, then straighten out that leg again. If you're comfortable here or with the legs straight, either is fine. Just spend some time with your hands resting down on the soles of your foot or on the floor, allowing the hips to open. So the muscles around the hips are quite strong, and they're going to need some time to release and to relax into this hip opener. So beginning to breathe deeply into your hip joints. If you feel that you can sit nice and tall and fold from the hips into a forward fold, then please go ahead and take that forward fold. You can then move the hands out to the sides, over the head, wherever they reach most comfortably. And please feel free to take, again, another 10 breaths in that forward fold. It really is quite delicious. It feels quite intense in the hips, but breathe into that intensity and it will be very beneficial for you. So, a little bit of a magic way of transferring to the other side. So once you've finished this side and you've had, say, 10 breaths in Dandasana, take your hands onto the floor, take some weight into your hands and lift onto your feet, onto your toes of your feet. And then turn towards the left with your hands. So we're walking the hands all the way around the room, swivel on your feet. So the hands are now behind you, round to the side, keep swiveling on the toes until you come into Dandasana on the other side. So once again, take some time so that you can feel both sitting bones coming down on the floor. If this really doesn't work for you and it's too intense in the hip or you're feeling it in your knees, then just release the bottom leg. So one leg is straight, the other leg, so we've got the left heel by the right hip. So we're working on the left hip joint here. Okay, so it's absolutely fine to have that leg straight out. It's also fine to just ease the heel forwards a little bit if that's too intense. Okay, so lots of variations for you. Do what feels right in your hips and your knees. If you're comfortable in the full leg position, then once again pausing, taking a few breaths, allowing the hips to open. And then when you're ready, breathing in deeply, lengthen the body and coming into your forward fold. Hands can rest wherever feels good for your support. Feeling as though your sit bones still sink down to the floor. So the temptation might be for the bottom to lift up, and that's absolutely fine, but feel that it's heavy and it's sinking back down. Breathing into your hips. Nice deep breaths, so again 10 nice deep breaths there in Dandasana. Once again, feel free to pause the video. If you want to spend longer, then that's absolutely great. And then when you are ready to come out, breathing in, gently lifting yourselves up Undoing the top leg, undoing the bottom leg, giving those thighs a nice wobble. And you might want to come into a relaxed forward fold over both legs. And give your hips